home of the stars, through the airwaves and on the big screen. Coming to you live from Hollywood, it's Rated G Radio with your host, Garrett Miller.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Rated G Radio. We've got a fantastic week of programming. We're going to welcome Scott Fullerton. He's the host of Left of Str8. It's a website, it's a podcast, it's a movement, it's so much more, but we're going to have Scott on in just a couple of moments. But I want to give you a real quick preview of what's happening for the rest of the week, and then we're going to jump right into the fun tonight. Tuesday night, we have Trucker Patty. Trucker Patty, of course, is Patty Spangler. She has been heard on Sirius OutQ with the various shows over the last several years, and she's an outspoken supporter of transgendered rights. She's, of course, the star of the Trucker Patty documentary that won several awards last year. She's been featured on a transgendered episode of Glee. She is a blogger, and she is going to be back on tomorrow night. We're calling it Transgendered Tuesday. I can't say those words fast, otherwise I've really screwed up. You know, here's a little-known secret about me, folks. I can't walk and chew bubblegum at the same time, even though I do try to do it every single day. So it's Transgender Tuesday with Trucker Patty. That's tomorrow night. Wednesday, we have Lisa Peeney. She's a psychic out of St. Louis, Missouri, or in that region, and we're going to be doing a special one-hour broadcast starting at 4 p.m. Pacific instead of the 7 p.m. like we're doing tonight. You know, the usual time. And then, on Lisa's show, I need to tell you, she is really, really popular. If you want to call, and I've ever wanted to call and ask a psychic a question, I'm going to give you a little bit of coaching. You want to call in about 15 minutes before the show starts. That's when the call lines open up to the general public, and you can call and get in line, and we'll make sure if you are in there, we'll try to get your calls answered. It beats trying to call in at 7 or, like 20 to 8, or 20 to 8, 20 to 5, as we're 40 minutes into the show, thinking, I think I'm going to give that show a call. That sounds like a fun idea now. Well, here's the deal. We've already got all the calls queued up probably by like 10 minutes after the show, if that. Sometimes they're even filled up by the time the show starts. So if you want to get a call in and have a question answered by Lisa, call in early. That's your little secret from me to you. You're welcome. And on Thursday, we've got Mark Dip. He goes by Dip, but I always read it this way. Mark Dip Depina. It's like the penis, but it's not the penis. It's Depina. And every time I say Depena, like, it's Spanish, he goes, it's Depena, Garrett. It's not Depena. It's Depina. So Mark Depina, he goes by Dip. We call him the Sydney Surfer. He's going to be back on the show reciting poetry, talking about what it's like wintertime temperatures. Our wintertime is December. Their wintertime temperatures are July. And he's going to be talking about what's happening in his neck of the world and reciting poetry. And then Friday, we've got Travis Miller. Travis is a new singing sensation. He's got all kinds of stuff that he's working on. He's from Central California, and I can't wait to hear about him. He was a brand new name to me, and somebody approached me with him, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I said, we need to grab this date in July because this is the only date that we've got. Otherwise, I'm booking in for like October at this point. And I said, we'll take it. So we're going to do the Friday night dance party with Travis Miller on Friday the 31st at the usual start time, believe it or not, at 7 o'clock. I don't know how many times we really do a 7 p.m. Friday night dance party. It just never happens because lately the guests have been all over the world. We've had people from London, Austria, the East Coast, you name it. And, if we're doing the show at 7 p.m., California time, that's like 3 a.m. if you're over in London. Nobody wants to do a show then. So anytime we get a UK guest, we always do the show earlier just to accommodate their schedule because I would like them to be awake. Actually, if they're a musician, they're probably wide awake at 3 a.m., so I don't even know why I'm worried about them. But out of common courtesy, we usually do the shows earlier. With all of that being said, tonight our guest is Scott Fullerton. He's the host of this brand new podcast that's catching on like wildfire. It's called Left of Str8. He's going to tell us all about it and what is going on in this incredible world that he is creating as we speak. Scott, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Garrett. Thank you so much for having me on. How are you tonight?
I'm doing good. I need to tell you, all day, I had a conference call at 2 o'clock today. And and one of the nice things about having you on, Scott, is, I feel like we can bitch about stuff. So we may be having a little bit of a bitch fest here in just a second. But before we get to any of that, I had a 2 o'clock conference call today. And the notes before my conference call were, you need to kind of zen out. You need to relax. You need to be, present. You need to not be all, blah, 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 blah. So all I did was drink chamomile tea all day today. And I've got this great headache because I had no caffeine in my body. And I don't usually over-caffeinate, but I usually have a giant mug or 12 of coffee in the morning. And so I have no, coffee by the time I get the conference call at 2 o'clock. And, the lady on the call with me goes, yeah, your energy is really calm compared to the last time. And I said, I've been zenning out today. I've, got my chakras in alignment. I made sure not to have any caffeine. I've drank chamomile tea. And so the second that call was over, I'm, chugging iced tea because it has the caffeine in it. So now I'm a little over-caffeinated, Scott. So I can't stop talking at this point. So I'm going to stop talking so we can find out about you. Scott, tell us about yourself.
Oh, my goodness. Well, you can talk all you want because I love listening to you speak. I really enjoy listening to your show each night. I'm just now starting this thing once a week. I don't know how you're doing this 5 nights a week. That is just the grace of God to do that 5 nights a week.
Well, we can talk about that on your show tomorrow because we're doing a flip-flop here. It's one of these fun things where I don't know who found who first, but anyhow, we were reaching out to each other back and forth, and I said, well, Scott, can you do my show? And Scott's like, can you do my show? I'm like, yes, we'll do that. So we'll talk all about me tomorrow. So tonight's all about you. So you have this brand new podcast, website, media empire that you're growing here. It's called Left of Str8. Tell us about Left of Str8, why you call it Left of Str8, what your goals are, and I've got about 5,000 other questions for you, but let's just start with that.
All right. Well, it actually started back in January, the whole thinking about the podcast, everything. What happened was I've had the Left of Str8 name as a Twitter handle and a Facebook page for about 3 years and just never was on it that much. You know how it is, just busy and you don't really have time to do that stuff in social media. I was working regular 9-to-5 job, doing what needs to be done. And then in November of this past year, my dad actually took really ill. And he ended up being in the hospital for about a month and in rehabilitation hospital for another month. And they're not old by any means, but he's 76 and my mom's 76. And it was at a point where he's had 2 heart attacks and 2 strokes in the past. And he's at the point now where he just really can't handle on his own right now. My mom, thank God, she's strong as a horse and healthy as a horse, but just can't handle. I mean, she's 5 foot period and about 140 pounds, and he's 6'2" and about 220 pounds. So,
how tall are you, Scott?
I am 5'10". I'm in the middle, 5'10", but I'm the chubby boy.
Okay.
So,
okay, good.
Yeah, so I got the in between genes.
Okay.
And so anyway, so in January, I left my job and decided to move back home so I can take care of my dad. And it's something that I really feel honored to be able to do. A lot of time, I don't know if I'm like most typical guys, but my dad and I didn't get along a lot growing up. I was usually closer to my mom, and we got along. The farther distance him and I were, the better we got along. But as I started to grow older, and somehow he must have matured when I got older. I don't know how he did. It couldn't have been me. But as I got older, him and I started getting a lot better relationship. And so this is a time where it feels like it's right for me to come home and do this. So I did that. So I decided to come home in January, quit my job. They have a nice furnished basement apartment here that I'm in. So I'm right below and everything. Just go up the stairs to help them out. But I have kind of my own little anonymity down here. But then you're kind of getting a little stir crazy because you're now, as a caregiver, I wasn't used to being a caregiver before. And he definitely needs a little help, but he doesn't need help 24 hours a day, thank goodness. He needs help probably about 4 to 5 hours a day. So it left me a lot of time on my hand. So as that was happening, I started getting into my Twitter profile a little bit, and I started doing the Facebook a little bit more, and I just started chatting to people, trying to get trying to make some connections, have some kind of connection. And since I was being at home a lot more, I've always been an outgoing person. I was the chairman of our Pride Center here in Northeast Ohio for 3 years. Like I said, worked full time. I always had a pretty busy social life, and this is the first time I've kind of slowed myself down to where I've had this extra time to really spend it online. So I started doing this in January. Go ahead.
So where did you move from? Because I know you grew up in Ohio. So tell me about some of your travels before you ended up going back home to take care of your dad.
I'm actually a vagabond. I'm living in Ohio now. I grew up in Southern California. I was born and raised in Southern California for 29 years.
Why did I think that? How do your parents end up in Ohio then?
My dad was born and raised here in Northeast Ohio, where we're at now. My mom was born and raised in Indiana, but they both moved to California with their respective families when they were like somewhere between 8 and 11 years old. And they met in high school there, were high school sweethearts, and ended up marrying, and had me and my two brothers in California. And about 20 years ago or so, 25 years ago, my dad's parents decided to retire back here where they were from. And they would go back and visit back and forth every year, and they ended up passing away about, I'd say, 20 years ago. They passed away, so my parents inherited their house, and after visiting every year, they decided they thought they might want to retire back here. So they retired back in Ohio 20 years ago. At the time they moved back here, I was actually living in Oregon for 4 years because, like I said, I am a vagabond. I grew up in Southern California, but I lived in Central California. I worked in Oregon for 4 years. And at the time when they moved here, about a year and a half, 2 years after they moved here, I was in restaurant business for a long time, and I was managing this restaurant in Portland, Oregon, and was just hating my job. So I thought, well, I saved a little money. I'm going to take 6 months off and travel the world like you should. And I thought I'd come back and visit for a month back here because I'd been back to Ohio to visit my grandparents even in 10 years before that. Came back to visit my parents for a month, and as sometimes happens, they were driving me up a tree by the second week, so I got a job so I'd have something to do while I was here.
Of course, you got to do that.
Exactly. So I ended up staying here ever since, and it's been still in my traveling ways. In the 13 years I've been here now, I've lived here in Northeast Ohio, and then I got another restaurant job that transferred me all over. I was in Buffalo, New York, and Syracuse, New York, and Springfield, Massachusetts, and Enfield, Connecticut, and now back here to Northeast Ohio.
So when you were working in the restaurant business, I don't know if we've talked about this before. What did you specialize in? Any particular type of cuisine for a restaurant when you were working for them, or did that even matter to you?
It didn't really matter to me at the time. I don't know. Have you been in California all your life?
5 years in May, so just kind of, it's a newer experience for me, and I love it.
Well, I first started out in restaurant business at a chain restaurant that was all over Southern California and actually in a lot of the western states called Bobby McGee's Conglomeration.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Okay, remember that? So
yeah, they were great.
They were so much fun. All the waiters, waitresses, hosts, and cocktail servers dressed up as real and fictional characters, and so you acted them out the entire time while you were waiting. And so I've always been kind of a wannabe theater person at heart, and so that was my first foray into restaurant business. I ended up working there for 6 years as a restaurant, as a waiter and a bartender for 3 years, then as a manager for 3 years.
Wow.
And that kind of got my foot wet in that, and then I just started bebopping around, managing restaurants all over the place. I happened to end up being pretty good at doing the opening and running the front of the house for the servers and the hosts and the bussers, and kind of got recruited and moved around to a lot of different. I worked for the Tony Roma's chain. I worked for the TGI Fridays chain. So a bunch of different chain restaurants like that.
I love that. Okay, so out of all of them, do you have, except now I'm going to put you on the restaurant, spotlight here. And I know, like Bobby McGee's, I think they just closed their last store out of Florida or something like that not too long ago. And if I'm wrong, correct me here, Scott. But out of all the chains that you work for, did you have a particular favorite dish out of all of the places that you worked? I
did, and I am a foodie, as you know. So I love food, and my favorite dish ever was actually Bobby McGee's dish. Of all the restaurants I worked at, Bobby McGee's was favorite. They called what's called a steak Jose, and they took a New York strip steak and they marinated it for over 24 hours in garlic and all sorts of oils and spices and everything. Sat in that refrigerator for 24 hours. Then they char grilled it they had a char grill broiler. Char grilled it to, and I'm a medium rare to medium kind of guy. Then they shingle cut it, which means they kind of sliced it on sideways down so it kind of fell on the plate, and topped half of it with the béarnaise sauce and half of it with a mushroom demi-glace. It was out of this frickin' world. And then
that
whenever
sounds great.
Felt like at the time. It was fantastic.
Okay, now on the flip side of that, were there dishes that you were like, I can't believe we sell this crap?
Yeah, sometimes. There was a lot of things. I just couldn't get. My problem is the one thing I've never been able to do, as much of the foodie as I am, and the thing that haunts me to this day that I'm very mad at myself, I have a mental block against seafood. I can't eat seafood. I can't eat the good stuff. I can't eat lobster, shrimp, crab, and I can't eat the stuff that doesn't taste like anything, swordfish, shark. I'm not a seafood person.
Wow.
So, yeah, we had, it's amazing because seafood is such a good food for foodies. I mean, they can really work it up nice, and when I was young, we went to this fish place that had a real strong odor, which fish places aren't supposed to have, and I have that to this day in my head that I can't have seafood. I just have a mental block against it. It's very strange.
I love hearing food phobias. That is great. So now, do you have other, food things? Because as a foodie, you got to kind of like be ready to, go at a moment's notice for pretty much anything. Do you have other food phobias that we should be aware of and plan for in case you come visiting?
You do, and it's pretty scary. I mean, for being as big a foodie as I am, I have the same weird kid food phobias now in my adulthood, where I'm not a kid anymore. That I swear to God, if the peas are going to touch the gravy, there's going to be an explosion somewhere in China. I just can't have the solid food touch the gravies. I don't like that. I have separate plates and bowls I put things in. And for some reason, I think because I was a restaurant manager, and as a restaurant manager for so long, you learn to eat on the fly because you're very busy a lot of the time. You usually end up eating real late at night or in between customers, and you tend to eat anything cold. You're up 3 times while you're getting your meals, so you'll have 3 fires you have to put out with the servers or with the host or with the bartenders, and so you'll eat 3 bites and go take care of something, and by the last couple bites it's cold. So I can eat anything cold. I have no problem with that. I eat cold pasta, I eat cold, anything I can eat cold. But I just have a lot of really strange things where I don't like certain things to touch, and I have to eat one thing at a time depending on the heat of it. So I eat.
You are weird. I love it.
Strange. I am strange.
You are very strange. I am loving this though. That is. Hey, by the way, we've got Tony listening in tonight. I want to say thanks for Tony listening in, and I know that you've been promoting the show all day on Facebook and Twitter. So Tony, thank you for doing that. Number one. So okay, I'm going to tell you right now, I have no idea how you are ever going to be a judge on like Chopped or Cutthroat Kitchen or any of these shows where they kind of like throw everything all together. What would happen? Would you really go into some type of shock if that happened? You get this dream job, and then it's like I'll be a great Chopped judge, but you can't have any of the food touching.
Exactly. And it's like, and if you have the seafood thing, I'm going to judge you pretty harshly because I don't have to taste it. So I'm going to have a real small taste of it. So if it's a seafood challenge, you're going to get low points on me just because you made the dish instead of making something instead of it.
That is funny.
I'm very fun. Yeah, it is kind of funny. And tell Tony that I said hi because if he's in the chat room, I'm not in the chat room right now. Tony was one of my first social media friends. He really did a lot of shouting me out when I first started being on social media. And like I said, social media is what brought me into this whole new stage for the podcast and for the website because I had so many friends that I made on there, and I was looking for something to do with my time, and I was really encouraged by a lot of people. Tony was one of them who shouted me out every week, and I ended up getting quite a few followers from Tony. There was a lot of really great people that I met on social media, and Tony's one of them.
Well, I really appreciate Tony's participation in the show. He's called in a couple of times. He's always, chatting me up during the show going, okay, ask him this or ask him that or what's going on here. So, Tony, thanks for being a great listener to the show. Appreciate you being here every night or as often as you can. Sometimes people, and Tony is great because, he'll send me notes saying, I can't listen live. I'm like, don't freak out. It's okay. This show is always available on demand. And the Monday through Thursday shows, I now convert into a YouTube thing. So, if people can't listen to it live, they can always, go back and listen to it on YouTube. As a fellow Blog Talk host, because you're doing this, you actually, because we're going to talk about your show here, we may need to have like a 50-part episode with you or something like that. I don't know, but we're going to figure this out. But one of the things that you do is you, at least in some form at some times, you record part of your show in a real live, radio studio, and then you take that recording and then upload it to Blog Talk and do that there. And you're getting your feet wet in how all of that fun stuff works. And I want to have a bitch fest with you, not at you, but with you in just a second about that because I want to hear some of the things that you're going through. But you have quite a wide range of experience on different places to do your show and how to make all of that stuff happen. When was it that you said, okay, I'm going to do a radio show, I've got all this social media stuff going on, and, I need to figure out how to do this? Where does that lightning bolt strike?
Well, I guess, like I said, about April or May, I built my followers up, and I kind of treated my social media as a job. I mean, I don't have a lot of followers like people do, but all of my followers I have interpersonal relationships. Right now I think I'm at 2,700 Twitter followers, and I talk to all but 100 of them pretty regularly. I know who all but 100 of them are, and if I don't talk to them once every other week or so, I at least hear from them off and on. So I really kind of had taken it as my job to make sure that if I'm going to be on this social media platform and I want to be social and meet people, I want to meet people I'm going to talk to. I don't want to have all those, you get inundated with all the people that are going to, I'll sell you 8,000 followers, and you have all the porn star followers, and you have people that have businesses that you have no interest in. I decided when I first started doing the social media that I'm only going to follow people that I want to have a relationship. So if there's a business or a person or something that I think someone I want to follow with, I'll follow you. Otherwise, I won't. And the good thing is a lot of people will stop following you after a while because you don't follow them back, and that's fine for me.
Well, I will tell you, I'm of a certain age. I would like to say I'm 22, but nobody would buy that even with a lot of photoshopping, okay? But I'm of a certain age where I really want to love Twitter, and I kind of just don't get it. I totally don't get Instagram, but I am on there, which I update like every 2 months. So I'm really timely on the Instagram. I'm on Facebook just because for me it's easy. There's a little bit of visual. It's easier to see on a ready basis. But I will tell you, the one thing I really love about Twitter is that you have that 140 character limit. One of the things that really kind of bugs me about Facebook is, people will give these 18-page, diatribes about whatever it is, and I don't really give a crap because I stop reading after about the third word anyway, so the 140 character thing works. But there's something about Facebook I love. I don't know what it is, but it's just, my first format. But I like how you are treating your Twitter. You treat your Twitter like I treat. See, I'm over-caffeinated and I can't say TW words. So you treat your Twitter like I treat my Facebook, because you try to have a lot of interaction with the people that you actually are connected to, and like you said, it's a business. So I'm very proud of you for that because your 2,697 followers that you have on there. Thank you, Tony, for that little pop-up. To be able to have a dedicated relationship with those people, I think is very, very cool. But when you started doing that, did you know that you were going to kind of focus on a couple of different areas as your quote-unquote expertise, or did it just kind of, was it organic? How did that come about for you?
It kind of became organic on it. I've always been interested in the arts. I haven't participated as much. I mean, I was in high school, I was in the plays and the concert choirs. Then I really wasn't into it myself, but I've always been very interested in acting and singing and Broadway. So when I was in LA, I would go to a lot of the shows that were doing the Mark Taper in downtown and things like that. I would go to a lot of the off shows there. I'd go watch some film television shows all the time. And I really got into the entertainment, the business of it, and the people as it is a business. And so as I started doing my Twitter and my Facebook, I started following certain celebrities that I liked. And I decided because it is kind of, you're trying to raise your own profile as well, I decided that I'm going to shout people out 2 or 3 days a week. And so I started shouting out different friends, trying to get people to follow them as they were following me, and I would shout out different celebrities. And as I was doing that, there's a lot of these celebrities that use Twitter or Facebook or whatever, and they're actually on those. They're not paying. There's a lot of the famous people that are just paying people, but there's a lot of them on there that are just making a job, trying to do their work every day, that run their own profiles and really like interacting with people that appreciate their work. So as I started doing that, I've kind of started drifting into my areas of interest. I've been very interested in entertainment, so I started following a lot of entertainers in the television, movie, and Broadway business. I've always considered myself a foodie since my restaurant experience, I watch all of the competition shows voraciously. So I started following a lot of the people on the food competition shows. And then I love to read, and I would like to learn to be a writer. I journal, but I don't write as of per se yet. So I started following a lot of authors. So it just kind of organically drifted to those 3 people that I was following on Twitter, started having conversations with them. And then when the idea that, hey, maybe I can do this as a podcast or as a radio show on the internet, I can bring those interests and maybe I can start talking to some of the people that I'm talking to online. So it started very organically with my interests, and I've kind of stayed in those key focus groups.
So when did you get to a point, though, that you said, okay, this has been fun, but now we're going to the big time? So when did you want to, start doing a radio show? So how did that come about?
The radio show came about for a couple reasons. One, it was starting to get a little boring just talking to people back and forth in 140 characters. And I'm kind of the opposite way of you. Like I said, you're very strong in Facebook. My impression of Facebook kind of weirded me out. And the way it did is I like the shortness of the Twitter, the 140 characters. When I was the chairman of the Pride Center here in Northeast Ohio, we had about 3,000 friends on our Facebook page. And people give you so much information. There'd be people I'd never met before that I would see them and I'd recognize them from their profile, and I'd see them out doing stuff. It's like, I know way too much about these people that I've never met. And so I'm going out to eat and going to different bars and stuff, and I'm seeing it's like, I know who he slept with. I know who this person went out to dinner with last week. And it kind of freaked me out a little bit. So I'm not a huge Facebook fan. I use Facebook sparingly, and the Twitter I like because it's short, concise, and you don't get a lot of the extra drama that you get in Facebook. So good point. Yeah. So that's kind of why I do Twitter is over Facebook. Even though Facebook is the bigger platform, and if you want to be popular, you really have to be Facebook.
You know what?
I don't care if I'm popular.
I will tell you what. I disagree with you. I think you are the cutting edge. You are the more cool kid on the block today by using the Twitter, because I think if you're, as far as people of the younger generation, or it's really the Instagram, I think, is the number one thing right now, then Twitter. And the younger people don't use Facebook as much because they're like, oh, my God, my parents and my grandparents are on Facebook and they want to be my friends. So, but I'm like, well, screw it. I don't care, But, so you started the show. How did you find out where to do the show and actually to create the show and, all the behind-the-scenes stuff, the mechanics of getting something like that set up?
Well, I knew I wasn't a personality, so I didn't have the ability to go call up and say, you know what, I think you should put me as one of your radio DJs. I knew that wasn't going to happen. So I started researching internet radio because I've always tried to be, after restaurant business, I went into marketing for quite a few years, and I learned all that you have to kind of keep current with marketing. And I noticed that marketing was starting to use a lot more of social media to get by. And through that, I learned about internet radio and blogging, and so to speak. So I thought maybe I'll start doing a blog. And then I thought, I'm not that dedicated to write every day. Maybe I shouldn't do a blog. Let's try radio. And I started researching internet radio, and it turns out there was one in my area of Ohio here, Northeast Ohio, that had an internet radio station that was looking to fill spots. And I thought, okay, well, this could be kind of interesting. And then you find out that in internet radio, you usually end up paying them to do your radio show.
Right.
Thought, that's a whole interesting twist. How is that going to happen? Am I going to turn this am I going to start paying for my own hobby this way, or what's going to happen? So I thought that I was going to give this a good college try and self-fund it, because being here with my parents, I don't have any income right now. When you leave, I don't know if it's everyone's unemployment, but for the state of Ohio, if you leave a job voluntarily to care for a parent, that's not covered under unemployment. So I don't have any kind of income coming in at all from leaving my job, which I was a little disappointed about. I didn't think that was going to happen. But so I thought I need to find some way to generate some kind of money. I don't mind living off my savings while I'm here. My parents are being very kind and paying for my insurance bills while I'm here. But I need to find a way to generate some income. So I thought
Scott, can I have you break right here, and we're going to go to a commercial break to celebrate sponsors that like to help fund radio programs. We're going to talk about your Patreon page in just a second as well. But in the meantime, this is a little note from our friends at Rainbow Brew out of Minneapolis, St. Paul.
When it comes to coffee, freshness is queen. That's why Rainbow Brew believes you should have the freshest coffee, roasted to order in small batches and delivered to your door within a couple days. Whether you're purchasing for a coffee shop, restaurant, or home, Rainbow Brew is your one-stop shop for fair trade and organic coffee. Offering many unique blends, including AM 950's own Blue State blend. That's Rainbow Brew, the Queen Bean, a proud sponsor of the Morning Grind. Online at rainbowbrew.com. Brew something good today.
There we go. Okay. Now that that's out of the way, so your parents are helping take care of some of your expenses and things like that when you're there, which is absolutely fantastic of them.
Right.
So cost is an issue when you're getting ready to think about taking coins out of your wallet to do anything, isn't it?
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing you have to think about. And I was able to find this radio station that was relatively low cost. Everything has the prices, and like you said, the sponsor is a great segue. I'm glad you got that sponsor, because that's the only way that we're going to be able, as internet radio people, we're going to be paying for our show forever, obviously. It depends on our platform, how much it's going to cost us and things like that. We're going to need to find something like that to survive. And I was very lucky because when I first started learning, when I thought I was going to do a radio show, I started listening to a lot of different podcasts. And I started listening to my interests, which are LGBT interests and foodies and things. And there was a company called Equality Vodka that I saw. They had sponsored some internet television show called Child of the 70s. They were on one of my favorite Wednesday podcasts. And
they've been on my podcast.
They've been on your podcast. So it's
Bert Gallagher and yeah. And
Bert Gallagher and Doug.
Doug Jacobson. They're just the best. They're actually in the car. I was chatting with them tonight. They're driving from Texas. I think they're in Arizona right now, headed to California, and then they're going to go back on Sunday. So I said, if we can hang out while you're here, let me know. But yeah, so here's a shameless plug for Equality Vodka. We love you. Okay.
Exactly. And so I had approached them and said, look, I really want to start this radio show. Is there anything you might be able to do for this nobody here in Northeast Ohio that will probably have 5 listeners the first day? And they said, here, let me sponsor your first month. And I went, oh, my goodness. Maybe I have
they're
something.
Awesome.
They are just fantastic people. And I can never say enough. They're the ones, if this goes anywhere, knock on wood, I hope it does, I got to thank my lucky stars for Bert and Doug, because they were really the ones that gave me my first push.
Yep. And
so
I will tell you, I don't drink, and I will tell you, go get Equality Vodka. So, but drink responsibly.
Exactly. Well, see, and I drink coffee out the wazoo, so I'm going to have to talk to your Rainbow people here, because that's
there you
pretty
go.
Good stuff.
They're awesome, yeah.
And that's the thing you have to do. I mean, you learn different things when we're on the internet like we are, and we're not necessarily a local show. I mean, I was the chairman of the Pride Center here for 3 years, and I probably have 25 listeners that are local. Most of my listeners
they're everywhere.
They're
right.
Exactly. That's the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's one of the things in doing a show like this is, I'll have guests that I talk to from around the country, and they're like, "Why would you want me on your show? You're out of California." I said, "It's internet radio. I probably have 5% of my audience here locally. My listeners are everywhere else." And they're
exactly.
like, "Oh, wow, that's really cool." So
and that's a blessing as a curse when you're trying to get sponsors, because you don't have that personal contact with them. You can't go to the local bar and say, "Hey, I'd really like you to sponsor my podcast. Of course, there's only 25 people in this area listening to us, and they can't make it to your bar, but would you mind giving me some money?" You really have to try to find those kind of sponsors that sell products on the internet, that understand how the internet works.
Right.
And that's really tough to do, because you don't have a relationship with them. It's all done by mail and phone, and it's something that I'm learning about right now. I mean, it's something that's a challenge, that I'm accepting that challenge. And I'm sure you have the same challenge. In order to keep us afloat, we need to find that way to get to those outside sponsors.
Well, speaking of that, Scott, not that I'm trying to segue into helping raise some awareness for your show. By the way, anybody who's listening on the show off of the Rated G radio page today, there is a little link on the show page at the very, very bottom. It says Help Support Scott's Show here. You can click on that now, but this is what we're going to talk about next. If you are listening from across the pond on West Star Radio, Scott's going to tell you how you can help support his podcast, Left of Str8 next. But I want to tell you that this is really, it's kind of like a new way to help artists that you've heard of Kickstarter or Indiegogo or GoFundMe. This is a kind of a different, separate but equal take. So, Scott, tell us about this Patreon site that you turned me on to, and why you love this format, and what does it do, and all that good stuff.
I really do love it. I'm glad, and thank you so much for plugging me. I mean, I appreciate any support I can get, and I hope you'll get as equal support or more support than I do. This is your show, but I really think that this is the wave of the future now, as crowdfunding has come into its own through, like those sites you said, Kickstarter and Indiegogo. People are really starting to become a true global community and helping support other people doing things they like. So I've happened to come across this Patreon site, or Patreon, by following one of the artists that I like. Peter Hollins is a fantastic voice. He does a cappella singing, and I was following him, and he has his Patreon page he talked about. So I went and checked it out. And this is basically a perpetual crowdfunding site. And what people do is if you have any kind of content, if you produce some kind of artistic content, be it you draw cartoons, you sing, you have a radio or podcast show, you create small videos, as a content creator, you share these videos with the people on Patreon, and they will in turn help support you if they like that product. And they can do that by anything you produce, by doing per podcast or per comic strip, or do a flat $5 a month. And there's people on there that are making, every time they put a project out, they can make a couple of $100 per project just by people that really want that information. And what we do as creators to thank them for that is we need to create some kind of reward or something for doing that. So you've done a fantastic Patreon page. I'm very upset that you've done yours 3 times better, and I'm the one that told you about it. And you have a great Patreon page, and they better be going to yours as well. But you really need to come up with something that thanks them for taking the time to support you. So you either give them a little extra content with one of your guests. That's something that I'm learning to do on my pre-tape interviews, which I don't do many of. I'm recording an extra 10-minute segment that's only going on the Patreon page for these people. Or you need to let them be a special call-in guest host, which I believe you have an opportunity for that, and I have an opportunity for that. It gives them a chance to come on and talk with one of their favorite people they want to talk to and not have to go through the hassle of waiting in line like everybody else. So it's just a really good platform for content creators like you and I that are trying to create something that people will enjoy, and the people that actually the audience that finds our content that they do like to enjoy, gives them a chance to help participate and help keep that going. And it doesn't have to be much. It can be $1 a month, $5 a month, $10 a show. I've got really lucky where one of my, like I said, mine things all came out of Twitter, and I have some great Twitter friends. And one of my Twitter friends on there is giving $25 for every podcast I do. And so that helps defer my cost for my podcast that I pay the radio station and everything else that I have to do. So it's a great site, and I'm really excited that you're on there. I think you have a fantastic page, and I hope people go check out both of our pages. And if they have a couple dollars to spare a month, you set your own limits. You say that I want to do a maximum of $5 a month, $10 a month, whatever you want to do. And if you can get 20 people like listening to what you say, it kind of really helps the artist or content creator out.
Well, one of the things that I really liked that when you were sharing this with me, because I'm like, whatever, Scott, whatever. You know, and I have like the big W with my fingers right above my forehead and the whole thing going, whatever. You know, you made a good point. You know, it's like if you had, you know, like I've got over 3,000 quote unquote Facebook friends, okay, and you've got, you know, 2,900 or 2,800 or whatever Twitter followers. So we're on the same page, you know, socially, media wise,
right.
that type of thing. You know, if every single one gave $1. Now I realize that, you know, out of you have a really high percentage of people that you interact with. Now on my Facebook page, you know, like I do a weekly video on Sunday afternoon, and I'm trying to make it fun. You know, a little entertaining along the way, but it's like a 1-2 minute video about who's coming on during the course of the week, blah, 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 blah. I will usually get about a 35 to 40% view rate out of all my friends. Now, if you're looking to have a survey completed, or, you know, you send a survey out to 100 people, if you got 2 to 3% as a return, that's a great success. But if you're getting, you know, a 40% return on a click-through or a view on a, you know, little video, you know, to me, that's a huge success. So I take that as a huge win. But if you had, let's just even say, you know, out of that, you know, 3,000 people that I've got, we had 1,000 of them give $1 a month, or 1,000 of them give $5 a month. You know, it turns what we do into a completely different animal. From number one, the type of show we can produce, the quality of the show, the sound quality. Because, you know, like depending upon the day of the week, you know, you and I know that on Blog Talk, as an example, we have this brand new, really fancy thing called Direct Connect.
Oh, okay, let's talk about that a bit.
Let's get into that. So we have this new Direct Connect thing that Blog Talk is really pushing. God bless them for trying to be innovative and, you know, giving me a higher quality product to offer out to the world. When it works, it sounds great. It's like listening to regular FM radio where the hosts are sitting there right with you, and it's absolutely fantastic. When it doesn't, you usually don't know until about 30 seconds before your show is going to start, and then you've got a guest that the link won't work, so they can't direct connect in. Then they're struggling to find a phone to call into, blah, 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 blah. So until they get it worked out, I've decided, because I had three major service failures in the last week and a half, and I said, I'm not going, you know, because I thought, I'm going to bring these high-profile guests on, because I trialed it for like a week, Scott. It worked great every single night. And then I had a major guest on the show, and she's texting me, she's emailing me saying, I'm honestly here. I really am trying to get in, but this link does not work. And then, you know, she finally called in off of her cell phone, and, you know, the rest was great. But it was like, you know, 7 or 8 minutes of scurrying around that you don't have forgiveness for, because you are doing a live show, and if you're doing a live show, you got to be talking. And if nobody's talking, what are they hearing? Silence, which is not cool. So even if it's terrible silence, or, you know, terrible stuff that you're going to hear, you got to have something that's making noise, because it's, you know, people can't read mime over the radio. So you and I tonight are not doing this fancy Direct Connect thing, because guess what? I'm not doing it until I get it right. So we're doing it over the telephone. And while the telephone sounds nice, Direct Connect sounds fantastic. And I've told everybody forever, when Blog Talk works great, Blog Talk is great. When Blog Talk sucks, Blog Talk major sucks. And I've made it very clear. You know, and the thing is, Blog Talk works great 95% of the time, but I need it to be 100%. I don't know about you. So that's my little soapbox
little
little
5 nights
explanation.
A week. You can't.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter if you're 5 nights a week or five minutes a month. When you need it to work, you need it to work.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm a little frustrated with that, and I know that as a newer person to the Blog Talk format, you and I have chatted offline about different things. Have you had any experiences that have been really delightful or frustrating for you, either or?
Well, overall, it's been pretty good. Today was my first frustration, and this is what happened. What I've been using it for is I've been kind of learning how to use Blog Talk. Like you said, I do a live radio show every Tuesday from 5 to 7 p.m. on a internet radio network. So you can look at it through my website on the internet radio network. And then I am replaying it currently on Blog Talk till I learn how it works. But one of the things that I'm taking advantage of is for my guests, and I'm finding that can't be free one night a week from 5 to 7 p.m., I'm letting them call into Blog Talk. I'm able to use my radio time there to do a private interview with them. And I've done 2 of them this past week. Everything worked fantastic. Today I had one set up, and all of a sudden the call drops, and she's gone. And she tries to call back in, and it's busy signal. And I said, well, let's try the fancy new hi-fi thing, right? So I send her the link to that. She tries the link on that, and she still can't get in. So everything's totally down. So I was a little frustrated today. It's my first time that it's come down on me, so I don't have anything bad to say overall because I haven't used it that much, but I was disappointed that there is that option where it may not work. If I was live, I would have been mighty upset.
Well, and we're going to change the topic because being Debbie Downers is not really what we're about. But I will tell you that when something does happen, they usually have really awesome live tech support. And I was even checking tonight, just to check. Our tech support is offline, and I'm like, come on, and this is like 6:45, and it's like, come on, you can't even you have to have tech support available at 7 o'clock on a weeknight on West Coast time. This is silly. But so I don't know. I think I think with any type of service that you're going to have, you're always going to have some type of challenge. It's not going to be perfect all the time, as much as you want perfection with everything that you do. So, but remind everybody on the Blog Talk format. On Rated G Radio tonight, there's a link that says Help Support Scott's Show here. Click that now. You can take a look. He's got, just like with Kickstarter or Indiegogo, there's different, like milestones, there's different pledge amounts, and he tells you all the cool stuff that you're going to get. So make sure to read through that. If you feel so inclined, please feel free to sponsor Scott's show. He would love it a lot. Scott, tell us the website that people would go to listen to your podcast. And again, when do you broadcast live, and are you airing replays where people can hear them again real quick?
Yeah, what I do is I'm live every Tuesday from 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time, so it would be 2 to 4 p.m. West Coast time. You have 2 opportunities to listen to it. You can listen to it on www.insightradionetwork.com. That's www.insightradionetwork.com. Or I actually have a link where if you go to my own personal website, there's a www.leftofstr8.com website, and that's STR and the number 8. So www.leftofstr8.com, and you can listen to it live every Tuesday. And then on the website, on my personal website, there's an archive page where I archive all my past episodes. So you can listen to any time. You can download. They're actually stored on SoundCloud, so you can download them into your iPod or whatever and listen to them at your leisure, or you can listen to them live on the website.
So, Scott, tell me, when you started doing the show, what were some of the challenges that you had as a non-radio person starting a radio show?
The hardest part is really the technical aspect of it, not really understanding the technical aspect. I've been very blessed where, like I said, I've made a lot of these social friends on the on the web. So I've had some great guests. I've had Blake MacGyver, who's been on the People's Couch on TV. I've had Nick Adams, who was a star of Broadway, and Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, and Chorus Line. I had one of the plaintiffs, my very first show, I had the plaintiff, Kelly McCracken, who was the suit that we won on the marriage equality in Supreme Court. So I've been very lucky. great guests on. Ben Patrick Johnson from L.A., I've had some great guests. So that part has been great. Finding the guests I've got really lucky on, and I thank my lucky stars, and I thank the guests that have come on. My thing is when getting the audio right. I've had audio issues a little bit each time because we're working with a new sound guy's working with me, and this is a young sound radio station, so we're not a fancy radio station by any means, and so the technical part is hard for me, that if I can't hear my guests or things like that. That's why I've been really experimenting with Blog Talk and others, and I really like that it's up 99% of the time, but we need them up 99.9, you know?
Yep, you need it up all the time. By the way, when you do your show, yours is a 2-hour broadcast, and so that is something that I think is, the only time I do a 2-hour broadcast is when I'm doing the Friday Night Dance Party, and I do that it's such a cruise control because I only talk for like 25 minutes, and then I just play music that people want to hear for the other 90, so it's a piece of cake. Doing a 2-hour show where you're, having to, again, fill content, have you had any challenges, from a quality standpoint, from a guest standpoint, from a I've lost my voice and we're only 90 minutes into it standpoint? Have you had anything like that come up that's kind of pegged you, Scott?
Not yet. I mean, I was worried about that, and that's one thing I really wanted to pay attention to, because it's like, okay, am I having too much soda beforehand? Am I going to be able to talk on the air for 2 hours? Like I said, do you get cotton mouth or anything? The reason I honestly have done it is because I've had such an abundance of guests where I really wanted to try to get everybody booked on. And so I'm doing 3 20 to 30-minute interview segments along with talking about different news subjects. But I have lots of authors. I have authors all the time that want to come on the show. I mean, I'm actually have people calling me now, which is kind of exciting after 4 weeks. I didn't ever expect for that to happen, for people to call me to be a guest. So that's kind of exciting, and I need to fill that time. Right now I have so much content to fill the time that I need the 2 hours. Whether that'll stay forever, I'm not sure. I mean, I tend to like that format. I like to talk. I like having a lot of different varied guests. I always try to have one author on, one entertainment person on, and one foodie person on, and they all kind of get back to some kind of an LGBT topic, or we do that or in the news. So I like the 2-hour format. It really gives me something to offer the listeners, I think. And I have, knock on wood, I've not had any problems with that whatsoever. Last week was the first time that I had one guest that couldn't make it, and we ended up trying, because I haven't really taken call-ins before, and I took call-ins for the first time, and that kind of worked a little bit. I was able to kind of practice with that, and that was interesting. So knock on wood, I've been pretty lucky. I really enjoy the 2-hour format right now.
So do you think that you would go to like 2 days a week, 3 days a week, 4 days a week, more, or are you happy just kind of doing the one shot a week thing?
I think right now, because I'm still learning, like I said, it's a learning process. You've been doing this for a while now, and you're very good at it. I'm still learning the promotion aspect. It's easier for me to promote 1 day a week right now and a lot of really good guests. I think I would like to, once the show hopefully catches on and gets known a little better, I think I would like to split it up a bit and go to maybe 2 days or 3 days a week with a 1-hour show, and that way I can use that content a little better that way. But for me, starting out, I'm kind of doing what works best for me right now is kind of concentrating on one night a week.
I'm proud of you for that. That's a huge toe in the pool for somebody who's not done this before, and to do such a fine job of it as you are on your Left of Str8 podcast. I think is you've got great things ahead of you coming up for now and in the future. I'm just amazed that you're just now starting out to do this, Scott.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And a lot of it, like I said, has to do with the circumstance. I mean, with my dad, I have to be here pretty much most of the time. So it's
right.
Really, it's a nice treat for me to go to the studio to do this for 2 hours a week, honestly. But I really don't have the luxury of being able to do it much more right now.
Right.
So it's kind of a part necessity as well. But thank you so much for those kind words.
So here's the deal. We've got about 2 minutes left. We've got about a minute and a half left because, I have to do my shameless plug of the week and play my song Gay Wedding, which is out right now, and it's available on iTunes and, of course, off of my album Blonde Jesus. Thank you very much. Before we cut to that, though, Scott, any last words of wisdom that you have for the listeners? And 2, tell us who's going to be on your show tomorrow and how they can listen to the show again, please.
Well, I just want to thank you so much for letting me on. Tomorrow we do have a live show from 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We have 3 great guests on. One of them happens to be a fantastic singer. He has a new single called Blonde Jesus out, and a great
best singer in the world.
He is so dang good. He's going to be on. Then I have one of my Food Network friends is going to be on, Alex Hernandez, who's on Cutthroat Kitchen. So he's going to be on there for me. And then I have a great author, Sean Chase, has a beautiful book of poetry that was just recommended by Anne Rice the other day. So I'm pretty excited. We have a good show. And you can catch us on www.insightradionetwork.com or www.leftofstraight.com.
Okay. Now, my last request of you is we need to know your Twitter handle, because if you've got these 8 trillion people that are following you on Twitter as of right now, it's time for the other cool kids to jump on board. How do people find you on Twitter and have that personal interaction with you every day?
I make it very simple. It's at Left of Straight, LEFTOFSTR and the number 8, just like the website and the podcast is called. So at Left of Straight on Twitter and at Left of Straight Show on Facebook.
There we go. That's absolutely awesome. Scott, you're a gem. You hang on the line because I'm going to chat with you while we play a little bit of the music. And everybody, tune in tomorrow night for Transgendered Tuesday. Trucker Patty is live with us at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Find out all the cool stuff. I'm not supposed to tell you. She's going to talk about 3 TV shows that are out. You can probably guess I Am Kate is one of them, but she's going to talk about 3 shows having to deal with transgendered issues tomorrow. So tune in for Trucker Patty on Transgendered Tuesday. I think we need to just have her on Tuesdays, and I'm going to have to figure out how to say that 5 times fast. Here's Gay Wedding by me. We'll see you live tomorrow. Don't drive distracted. Thanks, everybody, for listening. No, and it would also help if I press the play button. Here we go.
Mister, look what we've done. Hey, Mister, second to no one. Hey, Mister, our time has come. Hey, Mister, marry your true love. Hey, Mister, hot bun. It's a nice day to start again. It's a nice day for a gay wedding. It's a nice day to start again. Hey, sister, now you have the right. Hey, sister, she can be your wife. Hey, sister, true love. Hey, sister, go on, take her hand. Hey, sister, true love. It's a nice day to start again. It's a nice day for a gay wedding. It's a nice day to start again. Mister, look what we've done. Hey, Mister, second to no one. We've been together so long. Vows made today are so strong. No matter the state that you're from, it's a nice gay wedding. It's a nice day to start again. Our hearts are bright with this love. Our hearts are light with this love. And you crave at night for this love. And you give your all for this love. And you know you're good with this love. Start again. Come on, it's a nice day for a gay wedding. It's a nice day to start again. Come on, it's a nice day for a gay wedding. That should toss a bouquet to your friends. Come on, it's a nice day for a gay wedding.
You've been listening to Rated G Radio.